Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the HR Tech Chat video podcast. And we are very excited to have as our guest today, Bob Cahill, who is CEO of Globalization Partners. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, Brent. It's a real pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. The pleasure is all mine. This is going to be a very interesting podcast episode. I think we're going to talk about what Globalization Partners does around the employer of record model, and get into that and technology for it, and how you're a pioneer in it, and how it fits into the future of work and expansion for organizations, all these sorts of things. But maybe we could start with, what is your career path? What led you to Globalization Partners? What are the origins of Globalization Partners? What is it that really animates you about this role that you're in?
Great. I'll try to get all those in one fell swoop here. I'm a born and raised Bostonian, and I started my career with Ernst Young, a classic auditor trail sort of CPA path. But one of my early clients was a technology company, and I was fascinated by it amongst all of the different industries that I was, working with, about what the power of software and technology and how it can, to expand your market or make you efficient in your operations. It was fascinating to me. So I knew then that that's where I wanted to take my career. And, since then, past 25 years or so, I've been, a C-suite executive at a number of, typically Boston-based technology companies, but generally with a big focus on international, where I found a lot of passion that I could bring that in technology, and the ability to scale technology globally was very fascinating to me. So that was sort of the perfect, juncture with meeting Nicole Sahin, the founder of Globalization Partners, about 4.5 years ago. And she had this really a better mousetrap idea around companies that typically, for her, US companies that wanted to expand internationally would follow a very traditional process of, I must set up a new entity and get a payroll registration, and then I can hire people, and then compliance needs to be outsourced to all these different advisors. And her vision was, why do I keep doing this over and over again? Why can we set up one entity in a country and leverage that single point to allow many businesses leverage scale, technology, benefits, payroll, things like that, as a single point of solution. And so that was the kernel of her idea about 10 years ago. And so, and I was fascinated by the fact that this could happen, the pain that it would relieve any company that wanted to expand rapidly on a global basis without going through all that rigor by themselves.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's super interesting, right? Because there's a lot of obstacles, real and potential, actual and potential, to an organization expanding rapidly into a new country, and this is probably a good segue into helping our viewers really understand what an employer of record is. It's a relatively newer concept, I know that, but it's just, in a nutshell, it's a way for organizations to expand rapidly into new countries where maybe they don't want us. I'll let you do this, but there's
Sure,
a lot of heavy lifting here.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, if you think about companies that do want to expand, and it frequently is technology companies, they found their product market fit. There's getting scale in usually the domestic market, and want to take that technology, that service, that product to market in another country. And that really wants to be there. They want to focus on go-to-market. They want to focus on delivering a great experience to their customers, and the overhead that comes with expanding internationally and hiring international employees is significant, and it's time consuming, and it takes a long time. And it's everything from entity setup to banking to employment law, which is a huge one. And it's a very, very different country by country. So how do I hire people compliantly? What benefits do I bring them? What are the compliance issues I need to understand? And then you do that country by country, and our most successful customers are doing this across multiple countries, and each individual country as a whole is like starting over. So we've established entities all over the world, have established the benefits, the banking, the compliance. And so our customers can simply come in and say, okay, well, I'm ready to go. All I do is just bring on the talent, and we take care of everything else all through our technology stack. So really end to end, they can do this through an automated way. So that gives us high scalability on a global basis. That's really what EOR is. It's employer of record. And the key thing, and the reason that title is used is that we are legally, GP or any employer of record is legally the employer. So all the liability for employing compliantly is on us. And so while our customers certainly control the day-to-day of what the employee does, from a legal perspective, they are employed by the employer of record, hence the name.
Now, I have a question here. Like, say, for instance, the paycheck. Where does it say it comes from? Is that?
It's a great question.
Can it be white labeled? Can an EOR be white labeled?
Well, it possibly could be, but it would actually defeat the purpose here. I think ultimately their paycheck will say, in our case, if a U.S. customer going to the Czech Republic, it'll say, Globalization Partners, Czech Republic, or whatever our legal entity name is. And that's a benefit to it, because they really understand who their employer is. And just as important, the government in the Czech Republic understands who the employer is. And we work closely with governments around the world, and they really love the model because we're doing everything very compliantly. We're paying we're paying all of our social taxes as well as our income taxes in jurisdiction. We're very transparent in what we're doing. And so for the government, they love it because we're employing in their country and we're doing so transparently and compliantly. So it's a win for both that local employee and for the government.
Yeah. How does technology factor into this? To what extent is Globalization Partners providing the technology? And how much does it interface with, to what extent, if any, with the client company's technology? How does that all work?
Absolutely. So we have a saying, sort of like, it basically is technology when you need it, and humans if you need it or want to need it. You can experience an entire end-to-end employee life cycle without ever talking to a human, if you wish. We have it. You can come in, you can register, you can there's a whole user interface that allows you to employ the person that you choose to employ. We have a recruiting module. You need help doing that. We bring them on board. We have something, we actually, the contract that's generated for that employee is localized for all local employment laws. So we actually help our customers avoid any problems by offering things or saying things based on their knowledge of their local laws versus the laws that are applicable in that country around compliance, benefits, things of that nature, statutory taxes. So that's all done online. And that's all we have, 10 years of knowledge that's all built into our AI engine that helps generate all that. And so you can employ, all the contracts are digital and they're ready to go. And so really, and then any managing, commissions or payroll or changes in benefits, either from the professional or from our customer, can all be done on the platform. So it's a portal, a bi-directional portal that allows the entire life cycle to be managed. And so essentially, the only piece that the customer needs to worry about is that they usually give their professional an email address back at the company as opposed to GP, so that they can manage the day-to-day. Otherwise, that's it. It goes end to end. So that's first and foremost, the technology platform allows for that. However, we do have a lot of, we're very strong in that we have open APIs with a lot of the major HCM companies, the ERP companies, and and domestic PEO companies, which allows, the HR department, and I'll give the example of a US company, they may have ADP as their payroll provider or their PEO, but they also have a Czech Republic professional on our platform. With the integrations with ADP, they can get a single view of what's going on among their entire workforce.
Okay, that's interesting. So help me understand the payroll piece a little bit more. So in your technology stack, Globalization Partners, there is a payroll component?
Absolutely. So we're responsible. I mean, it's one of the things that we provide is we're responsible for making payroll. every month for their employees. They have no obligation. They're our employees. If they don't get paid, if someone was not to get paid, that's our responsibility. And that's regardless of whether whether our customer pays us or not. That's our responsibility, and we take that very seriously. And obviously, 100% payroll timeliness and accuracy is extremely important to the professionals, just like it is to you and I, making sure we get paid every week. So that is part of the offering. It's one little piece. It's not the piece that's the real value add, but doing so compliantly and timely, and make sure that that money is landing in the proper bank accounts or digital wallets is part of the overall offering.
Okay. Very interesting. We have this, this is a slight tangent for a moment here. We have this concept that we talk about here at 3Sixty Insights, that HCM is concrete and abstract. There are concrete elements to it and abstract elements. Concrete being, sort of the calculations or the maybe the administrative work related to, I don't know, performance management or for a payroll department in processing payroll. That's all concrete. And payroll is probably the most concrete expression of HCM because it's an actual dollar amount that goes into the GL that hopefully is right at the end of every pay period. But it's also the most abstract HCM being all about employee sentiment, all about employer brand, and really your reputation vis-a-vis how much HCM contributes to that. And so I can't think of anything more abstract than somebody feeling as if they're not being paid correctly, or that's going to set off a real employee sentiment fire drill for an organization. So it's really interesting. I always love talking about payroll, and when you mentioned the way you were describing it, it really reminded me of this, and that's super interesting. And now I wanted to just get into, again, going back to EOR as being a relatively newer, I mean, it's, let me put it this way. I know that Globalization Partners is a pioneer in this field, and maybe you can speak to that and Nicole's vision as the founder and now chair. But I'll just say that it's really crazy to me, or it's curious to me, let's put it that way, maybe more professional term, curious to me that EOR was not invented or come up with sooner.
That's an interesting question. I agree with you. I think there's a few reasons why. One is that, and I would say that Nicole believes, we believe that we were the first, and certainly there were a couple other companies coming around the same time frame. But clearly we've emerged as sort of, an industry leader, and have been since the founding of the company. I think there's a few things. One is that any disruptive model is going to have some resistance from the old guard. And in this case, frequently it's like, well, who was doing this before? Well, it was accounting firms, law firms, employment firms, recruiters, consultancies, agencies. That's who was that would help, made a lot of fees helping set up and expand, helping companies do this. This mousetrap that the EOR model is sort of like, well, you do it once, so it's very different. So I think that certainly was one, but I think there's also just the legacy. Well, this is how we've always done it, and getting people to think, wait a second, I've veteran executives said, well, I've set up an entity in Singapore before. I've done this. Here's what you have to do, and then check the box, usually given to them by their accountants or whatever. And so it's like, wait, there's a whole new, easier, better way to do this. And I think just takes time. And we're starting to see that regularly. I certainly think you see lots and lots of new entrants into the category recently. That's some validation that this model is here to stay. And certainly what we're seeing now is that, with COVID and other, and just general global expansion, and the advent of remote work or hybrid models, all of these things sort of lend themselves very much to a model where it's like, well, I can't think about doing things the old way because everybody in one country and all in the office. There are some companies where certainly that makes sense, but I think we see in survey after survey that most of our customers and businesses in general are not going back to the old model, and they need to think differently as they look seeking talent. And once you kind of get past that mental block, then it's, well, if I'm going to my talent is going to be remote at some portion, and there is a war for talent out there, well, then I have to think differently. And now it's like, well, I can get great talent all over the world. Fantastic. But I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to set up entities all over the world and chase down banking and currency and compliance and benefits. And with a company like Globalization Partners, it's a single login to do that on a global basis.
Yeah. Well, global mobility for employee global mobility is a huge thing right now. You mentioned survey, and I wanted to make sure that we touch on this. Globalization Partners recently published findings for I believe published the findings, the fourth annual CFO survey that you guys do. And I guess international expansion is on the minds of leading CFOs. Do you have any color to add to that?
Yeah. So we've done this 4 years in a row, and there were a number of stats in there. I'm not trying to remember them all off the top of my head, but the percentage of cost of businesses that are going remote permanently, that are having war for talent, that are willing to do global expansion, that as you said, that whether it's digital nomads, gig workers, the model has changed forever, and the war for talent continues. And now this survey was done, earlier this year, and that was even when COVID was sort of at the end of COVID, but certainly the headwinds that we were beginning to get a sense of potential headwinds around, the COVID hangover, and inflation, and and the R word, if that depending on how you define it. So the CFOs were concerned about that in this survey, and so despite that, the best companies still want to hire. They're still seeking talent, and the mindset has dramatically changed for how you do that. And we believe, of course, that we are a big part of the solution.
Well, it seems to me that with all the sort of built-in or the innate or inherent cost savings that come with going with an EOR, when you have these needs, it seems to me that it would really resonate with a CFO.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, and now I'm a former CFO, so I've kind of been up the trail of how do you balance, cost savings and efficiency. And there's no question that this can be much more cost effective, but getting your arms around it and saying, okay, because doing it yourself, it's death by 1,000 slices in a way, because you've got, okay, well, I've got a little cost here, a little cost there, and aggregating all that and saying, okay, well, there's certainly a fee that comes with using an EOR, but when you look at all the other costs, and maybe the biggest cost is time, that your finance and HR team and legal teams doing what they have to do to operate compliantly in a country, versus simply knowing with great confidence that your EOR is taking care of all that, covering all your risk, it makes it very worthwhile.
Would you say that that folks that are coming to you, we have, is that how, not to get too much into how the sausage is made here, but right, are you having a lot of organizations, they need to expand, and they look, gosh, how do I do this right? Oh, here's this EOR. Let me look into this.
Absolutely. I do think that even though we've been around for a while now, I think in many ways the industry is still somewhat nascent, in that the general knowledge of EOR and the model and what it can do is still new to many of our customers. Frequently, our customers are still first-time users of an EOR model, so there is a bit of education still. But we're seeing more and more that companies are starting to understand the benefits of this model. And so they are coming, and I think we're starting to see, I don't know if we're at that full tipping point yet where this is just a known model. We're getting there, we're rapidly getting there, and which is great for us and for the whole industry, because there's so much opportunity for companies. And what's interesting is that we certainly started as a US company helping US customers expand internationally. But today we can help a company in any country go anywhere in the world. And so we've got inbound, customers in Europe and Asia asking for our help in employing people in the US. So it's kind of come full circle.
That's really interesting. And I just want to just underscore a point that came up a little bit earlier around, what we're learning about the future of work vis-a-vis EORs and this sort of thing. And it's very interesting, right? So pre-COVID maybe, but when EOR had still established itself, right? And there was a lot of it was driven by organizations' own sort of designs to expand into other territories, right? And so that was what was, I'm going to guess that was the main driver back then, and it's still a driver. But now it's not necessarily expanding into a new territory because you need to have a physical presence in that for those workers to do whatever they're doing in customer facing in those territories, but simply in order to find the best talent.
You nailed it, Brent. It's exactly right. We've definitely seen a dramatic shift towards that. We've actually used saying one of the great things, and we feel very good about this, that we're bringing opportunity to the talent, and we're helping do that.
Yeah.
Which is great for and there is fantastic talent everywhere, but access to it is tricky. But with a company like Globalization Partners, where we have entities all around the world, we can easily give our customers access to that talent. And you're right, it's no longer just, hey, I need to hire in the UK because I'm going to market in the UK. It's, I need to hire great software engineers, and can we do that in Estonia? Or can we, or in Latin America, where all this talent exists, and it's not the first thing to think of if you're sitting in Boston or Austin or San Francisco looking for some technology talent. So it really is about the war for talent and about breaking down global borders. But it is very much no longer just to go to market. It certainly is it's just, where can I find world-class talent?
Well, yeah. And the other thing is that it's, maybe this is a good segue into, what the future of EOR is like. Where's the I always use this term incorrectly, the blue sky, but I still think it sounds great. It's just where are the future opportunities in EOR? Let me just share with you one thought I had right off the bat. I could see an EOR cultivating talent pools in various regions and maybe helping to facilitate that war for talent with its existing and prospective client base.
No doubt that's part of our overall roadmap.
Okay.
We've launched something called GP Recruit, which is the first step towards some of those things, which is, it's not only about employing the talent compliantly, but it's also finding that talent, sourcing that talent. So GP Recruit is a module on our platform that allows, in this case, to allow our customers to have access to a broad network of recruiters to help them find that talent. But you can certainly envision a day where, an EOR at scale has an incredible amount of talent pool in their database, and that could be certainly helpful to our customers. There's I think the market is evolving very quickly. And I think if you think about, what the definition of a worker is, what does that mean? Where you're seeing the most dramatic change, and where I think we believe we'll see a lot of innovation. So you think about the remote worker, the digital nomad, the people that don't want to necessarily be an employee in the traditional sense. They're contractor-like, the gig workers. They think and act differently. They want to work where they want to work. They want to be paid the way they want to be paid. So I think there's going to be massive innovation around tech. There's going to be massive innovation around the definition of work and where are my benefits and how portable are they? Where and certainly for us, where are those taxes being collected and paid? With breaking down of borders, companies like us and our customers, we move very quickly. Governments are slower to move, especially when it's touching potentially their tax dollars.
Mm-hmm.
We're working already trying to think that through, because as I mentioned earlier, we work very well with the government. So we want to work collectively with them to say, okay, having lots of people employed in your country is important. It's good for your economy. It's good for social reasons, but they need to collect tax dollars and make sure that those individuals have benefits and the benefits in the right place, and that those things are all portable within jurisdictions. And so there's going to be a lot of innovation. There'll be some government involvement, certainly, as we work through this, but it's moving so quickly. And when you think about the war for talent, what that also means that power is in the hands of those professionals. So what they, the best people are going to ask for these things, and we have a number of solutions in our current pipeline to help facilitate all of that, with all on a base of technology.
Yeah, yeah, it's really exciting, really helping to facilitate the gig economy, the global gig economy. um, it, you mentioned, workers, and maybe there's another term for it. I've wrestled with the same concept. I've thought contributors, maybe it's contributors, who knows? There's probably a better word out there. I haven't thought of it yet, but it's super interesting stuff. And yeah, it's encouraging to hear that your company is thinking about sort of the outer, what are the what's the potential around EOR, beyond its origins and what it first came into existence to help solve. This has been just incredibly interesting conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers?
I think as you think about the future and you're kind of looking forward, as we said, the definition of a worker, and it may very well need to be a new term ultimately. The gig, there's so many things to describe it, but it is evolving very, very quickly, and doing it compliant. And I think, and with any industry and I've been through a couple cycles, whether it was, sort of the .com bubble and things like that, they're ultimately, we think about a lot of new entrants and VC-backed companies, and what does our competitive landscape look like? But not so much just from that, because competition can be a very good thing. It keeps you sharp, and this isn't a winner take all sort of business model. But the compliance piece is very, very important.
Yeah.
These are people. At the end of the day, the people on the other end of this financial model are humans, that are working to pay their rent, and so it's an incredible opportunity to bring that. But it's also incredibly important that the players in this industry facilitating that maintain a high level of transparency and compliance. Because it's evolving very, very quickly, and and there's a lot of key stakeholders here, whether it's the big HCM players, it's our customers who are big companies globally around the world that want to be have reputation to worry about and want to retain the best talent. And so really being an EOR in this environment, it's critically important that compliance is all first and foremost, and taking care of all your stakeholders. This isn't a fly-by-night organization is going to collapse very, very quickly here. So we're very proud of our legacy, and we've been doing it for 10 years, and our incredibly high employee, our customer satisfaction ratings and our own employee ratings. So it's very exciting. And I will say in closing that we're drinking our own champagne. We made the decision very early on that we were going to be a remote first company. And so we're hiring our own employees all around the globe, wherever the best talent sits. And we don't require them to come into the office ever. Matter of fact, we've kind of dropped the term office. We don't really have offices. We have collaborative hubs where people can get together, to collaborate, to share ideas, and to have, some, human contact. But we give them a lot of ability to be mobile, to work where they need to work, and we can hire them anywhere in the world, which is really the power here. And as I said, our favorite saying is that we're bringing opportunity to the talent, and it's a very and that feels very good, from just getting aside from the business, just from a human perspective.
Well, that's a real ringing endorsement when a vendor uses its own solutions. I can't think of a greater proving point. And taking that compliance piece, just knocking it out of the equation for organizations so they can be agile where they need to be. Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Bob. This has been a real fascinating conversation. You've helped me understand EORs better. And thank you so much for joining us.
Brent, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for having me.